Hello and welcome, my friends, to the ultimate cheese strat guide for Phase 3 of Season of Discovery for solo players. Imagine taking down bosses single-handedly and making hundreds of gold per day just from enchanting materials. If that sounds good to you, you're in the exact right place. And if you've ever dreamed of soloing mobs like the High Chief Winterfall to make hundreds of gold per day in Firewaters, well, this is the exact video for you! I'm also going to show you how to achieve the most rare and expensive recipes in a matter of minutes instead of hours. So let's unlock the secrets of cheese strats in Phase 3 together. Alright, so Phase 3 of Season of Discovery feels way different than the previous phases, right? The first two phases felt extremely alt-focused. It was all about getting all your ults up, getting your runes, blasting PvP, Ashen Veil, Blood Moon as much as possible. In Phase 3 though, it really feels like the game is trying to make you max out one main character. Whether epic weapons that take 100 hours to farm, or trinkets that take thousands of gold to buy, it really does feel like we're being rewarded for playing one character. Because of that though, we're going to be forced to do all sorts of solo grinds, things we wouldn't have had to do in previous phases, and that's where the cheese strats come in. This video is going to show you how to save time and headaches farming the most rare and powerful items in the game. We're going to be talking about how to solo tough bosses like the infamous Princess on any class with ease. Even if you don't want her epic best-in-slot dagger, she still drops some of the highest value disenchanting materials in the entire game. Plus, you can even solo wild offerings at the same time. And talking bosses, if you want to solo the Winterfall Chieftain for his lucrative Firewater in any class, even a healer, we'll be covering a secret strategy for that too. We'll also be talking about some of the very best methods to solo farm extremely rare items like the Mighty Rage Potion recipe, and Librams of Veracity for that 8 intellect or agility or strength enchant. And if you want really rare recipes like the Arcanite Dragonling schematic, I've got the ultimate strat to make that farm really easy on any class. Let's talk Princess farming. Not only can you make up to 60 gold per hour just disenchanting the blue she drops, but you can also farm 5 wild offerings per hour at the same time. Those offerings could of course be used to buy best-in-slot gear. What I do with them though is to gamble 10 cards at the vendor in Fellwood. There's a chance of getting cards worth over 900 gold each, which is really enticing. The main event, though, is the Blade of Eternal Darkness. It's best in slot for literally every caster in the game. The big problem, though, is every group that wants to kill Princess also has a bunch of casters in it. The reality is that soloing is almost always your best option. In order to solo Princess, you'll definitely want to obtain the Scepter of Celebris first. This lets you skip the entirety of Maraudon straight to the last part where Princess is located. The questline to get the Scepter starts outside the orange side of Maraudon at Kavindra. It only takes about 15 minutes to complete with a full group, so I highly recommend it. Once you've got your Scepter, you can now start easily solo farming Maraudon in any class. The first key to solo Maraudon is to definitely have the 8% movement speed on your boots. That's very important for not getting run down by Princess. You'll also want swiftness potions to actually get to Princess, and optionally target dummies if you don't have any pet or summon abilities. As a bonus, you'll also want the Agamemnon's Roar. That can be used to farm wild offerings afterwards if you want to. So when you teleport into Maraudon, the visual indicator I use to head towards is the water pitcher plants. A general tip here is that speed is really key. If you wait too long, the patrols will start to get kinda weird. So anyways, I'm trying to always hug the left side to squeeze past the dinosaurs. The idea is that up ahead past the pitcher plants, there's a crevice you can reset in. You've gotta wait about 15 seconds for the mobs to reset in that crevice. After that, still hugging the left wall, you're gonna be running past a dinosaur pack. This is where on my priest I would use Homunculi, but you could also use something like an advanced target dummy. As you're kiting, also keep in mind that you can jump on the sidewalls. That's going to temporarily make the mobs evade for like a microsecond, and that's going to really slow them down. So anyways, we're going to get to that final dino pack, and then you can either use a pet. If you're playing a priest, I would use a Shadow Fiend here, or maybe you're a warlock, or you could just blink past if you're a mage. This is also a good time to just pop a swiftness pot if you don't have any of that stuff. Then at this point, we're just running straight across the bridge to the reset point. And that reset point is the rock near the entrance to the cave. Once I get to the reset rock, I just log out, and when I log back in, all the mobs are gone. So one other tip, if you don't have any pets for example, would be to use a nifty stopwatch or a Skull of Impending Doom. As for the Princess fight itself, you'll definitely want to dot her up, or use any kind of instant cast abilities you have. So for my priest, I'm primarily using the Shadowward Pain, though a mage could use something like Living Bomb. I'm also rotating my pets, and the reason for that is because whenever a pet's on her, she'll temporarily start stomping. And that's going to give you this really great window to maximize your DPS. In between pets though, I'm always kiting, and my preferred kiting method is just to go around the outside of the room. The real trick here is that by jumping on the sidewalls, you're able to temporarily evade Princess. The key thing though is to not do this too many times in a row, because if you do, she'll end up evading and go back to full HP. After Princess, if I'm feeling up for it, I'll also summon the Dinosaur Wild Offering boss nearby. That boss is a little bit easier to kill, at least on my priest, since he's not immune to most of my dots. Once that Wild Offering boss is dead, if I chose to kill him, I'll head back to the center mound to reset and go again. So soloing Princess is pretty awesome, but Princess really isn't the only boss you can cheese in Phase 3. High Chief Winterfall in Winterspring is one of the most lucrative boss spawns in the entire game. He has a near guaranteed drop chance of Firewater, which is currently worth 22 gold on my server and sells instantly. With only a 5 to 10 minute respawn rate, the High Chief is arguably the single highest gold per hour mob in the entire game right now. And hey, I've farmed the Chief many times in groups, even solo on my Hunter. But I've gotta admit, if you want to solo him on a Priest or a Warlock or a weaker class like that, it's really hard to do. So one of the methods I like to use when I'm farming on my Priest is the Party Guard cheese. So all you've got to do is to have somebody else in your party in the same zone. It could be a level 1 alt, it could be a friend, it really doesn't matter. As long as they're in the party, any mob you kill, in this case the High Chief, they're still going to get full loot even if the guards do 99% of the damage. So what I do on my Priest is to pull the Chief all the way back to Winterspring, and with him will come all his guards at the same time. I run on the mountain back to Winterspring, and then I just pull all the mobs directly into the guards. So if you're doing this, you can get a guaranteed 6 Firewaters per hour on literally any class. That's also an extra 20 to 30 mobs per hour if you add in all the extra mobs that come with him. So farms like this are really strong, and there are a number of other broken ways to take advantage of the guard cheese. For example, you could farm the Cobalt Mage Weavers for their Arcanite Dragonling recipe. I did notice that occasionally these mobs would despawn, so further testing is needed. We've talked about the very coolest boss cheese strats in Phase 3. Now let's talk about some of the best locations you can cheese to maximize your profit and reputation. The first cheese location I love is Dalston's Farm. This is the ultimate location not only for gold, but for Argent Dawn reputation as well. Now that Argent Dawn reputation isn't must-do. If you're a warrior and enhanced shaman, you've got to get that Sunfruit. But it's also biz for enchanters. You want that 24 healing power enchant, don't you? But you don't have to just sit there and kill mobs. You can AoE pull the entire farm at the same time by abusing the dead tree to the east. This spot is primarily favored by hunters, though you could use the tree to AoE kite many mobs and even a mage or a warlock. And it's no wonder, because the undead mobs can drop items like Libram or Veracity, even Julie's Dagger, which dropped when I was farming there. What I like to do on my hunter is to pet pull as many of the undead mobs as I can. Then I can use the tree to kite while spamming my newly buffed explosive shot and my explosive trap. There's also a second cheese you can take advantage of at the farm for even more reputation. If one of your party members is on the Dalston Tears Cauldron Lord quest, every 2 minutes and 20 seconds just being near the cauldron will spawn a lord. That lord will give 15 Argent Dawn reputation even at honored. Let's switch gears to some cheese strats to farm really expensive rare items and recipes. One of my favorite things to do in the game lately has been to farm all the alchemy recipes for my priest. Pretty much all the good recipes are extremely expensive, like the Mighty Rage Potion for those blasting warriors. The real reason the Mighty Rage Potion recipe is so expensive though is that only the Blackrock Slayers can drop the recipe. The secret cheese strat I use to get my recipe though is that inside the buildings are tons of Slayers, just nobody can get to them. So at the main Blackrock building to the northwest, you can use a pet to easily pull all the Slayers out at the same time. Then you can just power farm the Slayers by kiting in a circle around the outer edges of the building. So Phase 3 really is all about maxing out that one character, getting them as strong and jacked up as possible. And now you're set up to do exactly that with all the strategies we've laid out. Whether it's soloing Princess to make a bunch of gold and get your Blade of Eternal Darkness, or soloing High Chief Winterfall to make bank getting Firewaters. And of course you're set up for maximum success in the open world farms as well. So with so many farms to choose from, I am really curious which farm you're going to be trying out first. Alright my friends, so it's that time in the video where I say thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, it really helps the channel out a lot. And then check out my ultimate gold making guide for Phase 3. You're really going to get rich off this one.